Hi, I'm Yuri Cole from the Venice Institute of Contemporary Art. I'm here with at the BG Gallery with the 50 Years of Oil and Water, Gloriane Harris, 1969 to 2020. The show closed from our other gallery at the Bendix building in February 2020 because of COVID, and the BG Gallery was just kind enough to bring us here so we could represent it. So we're very, very pleased, and I'd like to welcome you to Gloriane Harris's work.
This painting was done after the 1973 earthquake in Los Angeles, and the freeway had come down. The glass along La Cienega Boulevard was broken out on every window that I drove by. It was a really, really strong earthquake and had a very powerful influence on me. So in order to sort of deal with the earthquake, I made this painting because I figured it was time to get it out of me. Ellipses I had used previous, and some earlier work reminds me of the repercussion of the sound waves and the physical waves that you feel when you feel the earthquake and the literal earth is moving beneath your feet and you're kind of rocking and rolling. And then of course this is kind of like the streets and the freeway. And then again, the circles up here represent the range of how far the earthquake tends to spread, and especially in an environment where there's a lot of people. But it was quite a violent earthquake, considering a lot of things very, very bad happened. A lot of people died. And the brightness comes from my feeling about LA's light and the unusualness of the beauty of this light and this sort of undercurrent of a threat of the earth kind of moving all the time. Hence the colors, bright to a grayer, and then the sunlight representing both the repercussions of the waves coming up from the earthquake and the light here. This painting came after spending a lot of time in the Southwest. I have a lot of influence of American Indian. My aunt was a full-blooded American Indian, and I just had a real interest in the nature of the geological environment and then their symbolic elements, which sort of run throughout my paintings because I use a lot of basic symbol elements. If you reduce it down to the real simplicity, we get the mountains, the very bright red of the earth, and then we come down into the brown of the earth down here. So it has sort of a lot of American Indian symbolism involved in it. Actually, some tantra designs that I had seen a very long time ago influenced me in some of the geometric work, because worldwide the symbols seem to have a similarity in meaning. They run throughout history, and the longer I study it, the further back it goes, maybe before 20,000 years, as far as I can tell now. This painting is quite an important painting, really, because it was based on prehistoric shells that had fossilized that came from the Channel Islands. And they're very, very heavy. They're kind of about the size of your hand. They were also in American Indian middens that were on the Channel Islands. And the strokes in my paintings at this point began to expose themselves. They were kind of underneath all of the hard edge work. And then as I developed the strokes from the ocean, when I started painting about the Channel Islands off of Santa Barbara, I really started letting the movement of the ocean and the environment, the horizon. I spent a lot of time with my brother on his boat. He was a professional fisherman, had physical experience with the water and being out of the Channel Islands. And I believe that the organics that come out of the ocean are really amazingly beautiful. Yeah, the painting where the exposure of the strokes has become allowed to be seen by the viewer was very important to me, because as I was going through this development from hard edge to allowing my strokes to show, I wanted the viewer to see where it had actually come from. And it became part of this egg basically development in a strange way, because it was like the exposure of the inside of the egg, where you can see where I've done all the drawing, all the calculating of the elliptical shape, and then the shading, of course, is very, very subtle. My coloring is, all about real subtle differences where things have that glowing edge of brightness where the colors touch each other, and then it stops where you have the white background and the strokes. So it's really an exposure of a way of working. Okay, my large blue painting is definitely of the Channel Islands in the evening. If you break it down out of the abstract shapes, it's the horizon with the frontal triangle as the boat. You're going out into the water. The long triangle in the background is the island, and then you have the sky in the evening. And as you sit on a boat and view the darkness on the water, that's how it feels to me. And it's one of my favorite paintings. This is a newer version. This one is a 2018. They've become more abstract. You can still see some linear elements coming through the fog. I'm still painting water, but it's become a little bit more emotional, a little bit more loose and soft. The brush strokes are changing. I just really liked this painting because of the subtlety and the soft misting of the water, but it is much more in a newer vein of my style, more present. This is a gouache painting that goes way back into the 70s, and again, I had begun to expose the strokes that I used underneath as almost like animal footsteps that traveled around. And again, we have the use of a tantric sort of design, geometric design, and again, the circle that represents the earth and the four corners. This painting is a relatively new one also. It was 2017. The Texas flood, there were some pictures that came across YouTube. They were really, really powerful, of these floods just washing over everybody's farmland. And it had a real powerful effect on me, and I just had to make the painting because it reminded me of the islands being left and sort of retransformed. So it's a sort of murky painting about a dusky, very scary time. But it was so much about the water inundating that it was just one of those I had to paint. So. This is an early 70 painting. Again, it is based with an ellipse as the main speaking point to you. The colors are meant to move in and out so that you have the illusion of something moving that's really not moving, while the hard edge really maintains its stability of shape and form, yet gives you this sort of ethereal feeling as the colors move up and through themselves up into the gray area. It was one of the earlier paintings where I was not exposing my strokes at all and everything. I wanted to be very smooth. The paintings that are all hard edge, I never tape. There's no taping involved ever. They're all hand painted. They will always be hand painted. So there's no other mechanical things that I've ever used in any of the hard edge. These are 4 watercolors that were done quite a while ago. They are supposed to have lots of white paper because they are part of a Channel Islands series. And again, they're about water and about the islands and the different kind of effects that you see when you're out on the water, the different colors of water. This one's very red. Sometimes in the morning or in the evening, the ocean is very red. Sometimes it changes into a maroon. Sometimes it's bright green. It's the transformation of the water into the foam and into the mist that is really fascinating to me. The movement of the water, trying to capture that emotional state of what it's transforming into, is kind of one of my primary concerns.